Hello, everyone. My name is Elisa Ewan, and I'm the Assistant Director of Alumni Relations at Teachers College. I would like to thank everyone for joining us today for the Alumni Career Development webinar series featuring alumnus Bernardo Tirado. The webinar series covers a range of career topics and includes speakers from a variety of backgrounds. This series is co-sponsored by the TC Office of Career Education and Professional Development and the Office of Alumni Relations. Videos of past webinars are available on our website at www.tc.edu/alumni/career webinars. Although many of us are staying at home right now, we are so grateful to our alumni experts who have stepped forward to offer digital programs that will continue to bring the TC community together to learn, share, and connect with one another. Today, Bernardo presents Job search tips amid COVID-19. Bernardo is a certified project management professional, a Six Sigma Black Belt, a certified Scrum product owner, a certified body language expert, and a certified trainer in analytical interviewing. He is also a current managing partner at Welbeck Advisory, which is a consultancy firm transforming businesses, teams, and leaders. Previously, he had held senior positions in various Fortune 500 companies, including American Express, Morgan Stanley, and JP Morgan Chase. Bernardo has provided some resources, which you can find and download them in the handouts pane. If you have any audio or technical issues, please chat me directly in the chat box. And without further ado, here's Bernardo.
Thank you very much, Alyssa, for that warm welcome. So I appreciate everyone being able to take the time today to join us over the next 45 minutes or 60 minutes to really talk about tips and insights that can help you as you're going through your job search. So I'd like to do is just introduce myself, and I'm going to turn my camera on so that you can see me a little bit more. And ultimately, the goal today is really to share with you different insights that you will be able to apply that can help you be able to land the job that you're looking to land next. And as we go along, and I know towards the end we'll have more Q&As, in the event that we don't get to answer some of those questions, always feel free to reach out to me directly. You can reach me directly on Twitter or Instagram at Professor Tirado, or you can also see some additional insights that I share regarding career development on YouTube under Career Insights, the Psychology Behind Work. So why don't we get started? I'm going to turn my camera off. So when we think about job search, today we're going to be focusing on four main areas. The first is known as the Groundhog Days effect, and I'm sure many of you are feeling it. I know I am, and we'll talk a little bit more about what could you do today to really help change that monotony, but also start focusing on and looking at ways to be able to maximize your time in your job search. The second area that I'm going to be focusing on is also being mentally prepared. As you know, that there are a lot of roles that are being eliminated, and also thinking through how to go about making sure that you're making most of this opportunity around being able to add contributions and so forth as the job search gets longer. And then 3 is really looking at and considering consultancy, and 4, seeing where there are opportunities to continue to build up your credentials. So why don't we get started? Groundhog's Day. Many of us probably wake up, I know I do, on a Saturday thinking it's a Thursday, and the day continues on and on. And so one of the things that I think is a misconception is, how do I go about finding a job now? We're not able to meet in person. And the reality is that there are a lot of people out there that want to be able to reconnect, and more so being able to do that through video. And so one of the things that I would recommend that you think through is leveraging your LinkedIn network and being able to reach out to them and start to build rapport. I would recommend that if you're reaching out to someone for the first time, to not ask for a role or for a job. The reason why I say that is because it doesn't really feel good to the other person that you're just reaching out for them to pretty much kind of use them. Ultimately, what you want to do is re-engage and build that network so that you're able to slowly be able to share with them what your aspirations are in several iterations of conversations. And think of it as a plant that you are planting a seed, and then you're able to see it grow through time. And there are resources that will be shared at the end of this that covers the do's and don'ts of networking, but I wanted to just make sure that I share that tip before we begin. So taking the time right now to connect with your coworkers, leaders, employees, or other friends that you know is important. And one of the things that we typically do is we go through a list, either we have it in Excel, and not really think of the individuals that we're reconnecting with as a book of business or a client or a customer reference management tool. And the reason why is because we're not seeing it as how to go about tracking the conversations. And one of the things that I would recommend that you look into, and I'm recommending here, is looking into a product called Nutshell. And by the way, I'll go into this so that you can see what the product looks like. And before I go any further, none of these products I've been paid to endorse. These are products that I found really useful for myself and for the clients that I work with. There are products like Salesforce and so forth, but ultimately, when you're thinking of managing the volume of people that you need to connect with, one of the reasons why I particularly suggest having a CRM or a customer relationship management tool is so that it helps you with your networking process. And although these CRMs are designed for sales, the tools itself allow you to keep track of conversations as well as when to touch base and even tidbits of information in the event that you don't have very good memory and you forget about the fact that the person has children or so forth. You can add some details around those conversations that you previously had so that you can remember and pick up where you last left off. And so that's the one recommendation, is to looking at having a CRM. The other one is also looking at how to best organize your strategy. And it's important to have a strategy around how you're going to proceed with your job search. So whether you're right out of school or you are a seasoned professional, thinking ahead as to how to maximize your time, what are the steps that you need to do, whether it's updating your resume, whether it is connecting with people that you haven't connected with. Having that strategy in place will allow you to start think about what types of tools could allow you to be able to make this process a lot easier. And one of the tools that I also recommend is looking at a time management tool called Clockfi. Again, I'll go into this in a second. The reason for that is because it allows you to track the time that you're spending on your job search. One of the things that I will mention is that many of us fall into the trap of making or applying to hundreds or lots and lots of jobs online. And it makes it very difficult and also sometimes very frustrating and depressing because you're not getting responses back. And I do understand how that feels. And so my guidance when it comes to applying online is to not do it, to not really focus all your energies on applying online. You'll find your job through your network and your networking. And if you go back and think about and ask people how people found jobs, it's usually through people that they know or have been referred to. And so from an applicant tracking system standpoint, that I will also point out is that there are a lot of CVs, and it's now AI. Many of the systems are AI enabled, which are reading through and scanning through the information in there. I'm not discouraging you from applying, but I also would prefer and suggest that you spend your energy on things that you can control, which is building a network and being able to reach out there. And if you're not comfortable with doing that, then it's a matter of getting practice around how do you go about selling yourself? How do you go about networking? How do you go about building relationships? And one of the areas that I would recommend that you think through and perhaps leverage is Toastmasters. So let me go into Nutshell, and I'm just kind of covered that high level. One of the reasons why I like Nutshell is because not only do you get to have a free trial of it, it is AI enabled. What it does is if you attach your Gmail account, Yahoo account, whatever account you use as your predominant email, it actually saves all the contacts and interaction and in conversations that you have had over the last, several weeks and so forth as you start to use it, by the way. And in addition to that, if you happen to have that email address, what it does, and it's amazing, it goes and it searches the internet for public information as it relates to social media, by the way. And I don't mean public information as to records or anything of that sort, but more around social media connections that may be associated with that phone number or with that email. So if you happen to have many years ago a MySpace account and you forgot to close it down, it will find it. Or if you have a Twitter account, it will assign that Twitter account to that new contact, or even if you have LinkedIn. So the reason why I like this particular tool is because it does a lot of that connection and thinking behind the scenes automatically for you. I'm not going to go into the tool and demo the tool, but I wanted to share with you one of the reasons why I like it is because it allows also for tracking of conversations. So if you are just reaching out to someone for the first time that you haven't spoken to in 5 or so years, it will allow you to see what email exchanges have happened, and it also starts to allow you to come up with a strategy as how do you re-engage with that person after 6 months or 7 months after the initial contact that you've made with that person itself. So again, I'm always open to sharing more details around it, but I have a lot more content to cover, but I wanted to share one of the reasons why I like this one over other products like Salesforce. Clockfi is the other tool that I was mentioning before, which is really more around thinking of it as a project plan or organizing your strategy around your job search. Whether it is I'm going to dedicate 2 hours to applying online, or am I going to be using Indeed to create my job searches, to I'm going to start doing some virtual networking or meetups, because I know now we can't really meet in person, but there are meetups and there are a lot of great resources out there that allow you to connect with people even though it's not in person, virtually. So there are ways of being able to do that, and this allows you to structure that. There are free resources where it comes to not only meetups but also associations. So if you are in finance, or if you're in consulting, or if you're in HR, there are the SHRM, they have a lot of resources that you can be able to track and organize your time. And when you're thinking of organizing your time, and by the way, this one I did open up just to kind of show a little bit of it, because when you go to the actual website itself, it doesn't give you a demo. This, and also one thing I'll say is Clockfi and Clockfi, I'll say ClickUp and Clockfi are free. So they don't charge you anything. Nutshell is a nominal fee. But with Clockfi, you can enter any particular activities that you're doing and time how long it's taking you to do that. So as I started off with Groundhog's Day, time kind of gets lost and the day runs away. And sometimes for some of us, sometimes it goes a little too slow. And so when you're thinking about organizing yourself, this type of tool, and it ties into your browser as well, it allows you to basically track all the activity that you're doing. And then at the end of the week, you can look back to say, okay, am I really efficiently using the time that I have in this job search? Where am I really getting a return on investment in my time as it relates to the role that I'm looking for and the relationships that I'm building? So that's the tools that relates to that. And then also in regards to Toastmasters, it is a tool that allows you to practice. They have a lot of Toastmasters that are free based on your region. Again, being able to practice your pitch is going to be very important. And speaking of pitch, which is not on my slide, it's very important to also think about having 4 or 5 different pitches. And your pitches really shouldn't be a resume me type of pitch. And when I say resume me, means like the following. Hi, I'm Bernardo Tirado. I worked at American Express. I worked at Morgan Stanley, went to JP Morgan. I was in the UK. That's resume me, because I'm going in a chronological order of when I started my job to where I am today. So try to avoid going into cramming in as much information when you're meeting someone for the first time, and instead pick 1 or 2 things that will create an interest for that person to want to learn more about you. Again, I'm not going to go into more detail around that, but I wanted to make sure that when you are looking at selling yourself, pitching, using resources like Toastmasters, that you're thinking about a strategy around the types of pitches that you use when you are connecting with people. Moving on to being mentally prepared for a longer job search. Now is the time also, I know in the immediate term you need a job, I get it. But I also think whilst you're looking for a job, thinking ahead, what do you really want? And what I mean by that is, do you see yourself at 30, 40, 50, 60, being in the same location, living in the same location, doing the same type of work that you're doing at this time? Do you see yourself having your own business? Really thinking ahead will allow you to also add control to your job search, but more importantly, what is the strategy, long-term strategy around where you want to be? And I include in this presentation a template that I use with my clients, and I'll walk you through what that is in a minute, to be able to visualize all aspects of your life and thinking ahead. And I know it's very difficult because at this point in time, finding a job is more imminent. And I do understand that, but I also think taking the time and investing your time to think ahead will equally help out as it relates to what else you're looking to do once you find something. The other opportunity that exists as we're mentally preparing for a longer job search is donating your expertise. There are a lot of resources out. I'm only including one right now from New York State, but depending on where you live, there are a lot of governments, small businesses that need help, whether it is going from a brick and mortar business into a digital platform where you can create a learning environment for their employees or their customers, or going into moving from a startup that needs some assistance to help them stay alive, or stay afloat, I should say. And so being able to donate your time is another way of being able to not only keep up and honing on your skills and contributing, but you never know what it may lead to long term. It may lead to other opportunities. It may even lead to something more permanent. And so I'm going to go back to the life plan at the moment so that you can see what that looks like, and then I'll go into the other resources. So the life plan itself that has been included, it's a very straightforward exercise, and although the template looks a bit elementary, it really isn't. When you print this out, the objective here is to do a visualization exercise. And the visualization exercise requires that you be in a quiet place where you can really mentally focus on and envision what your life looks like in these increments of 5 years. So obviously we're in 2020, but what does the rest of 2020 look like? I know many of us probably have plans to perhaps travel, or we're in the middle of a job search, or we've been close to landing something. Obviously things have changed, but what does the rest of the year look like? But more importantly, where are you going? What does 2035 look like? So in each of these columns, the idea is that you're closing your eyes and you are envisioning yourself waking up any day you choose. So if your favorite time of the year is the springtime, think of it as maybe May 1st. Any day of the year you choose, and then once you pick that date, what does your day look like? You wake up that morning, is it sunny? Is it rainy? Are you in New York? Are you in the UK? Where are you? And who are you with? You know, if you're single, do you have a partner? If you're not single, are you still with that partner? I'm making light, of course. But ultimately, where are you? Who are you with? What are you doing that day? Are you spending your time exercising? Are you spending your time donating your time in philanthropy? Are you working in a job that requires you to be there for 70 hours, work 70 hours or 80 hours a week? This is a time for you to think about what exactly do you want. And then the rows that are there help you figure out, okay, what does your health look like? And when I put your health here, it's not necessarily saying I want to lose weight or I've lost weight. It's more of, okay, I've lost 15 pounds by this time, or I've lost 20 pounds. And I'm just using that as an example. I'm not saying that that's one of the things that you want to focus on. But the same thing with personal finances and career. And again, I'm always open to having conversations as to how to bring this to life for yourself. But the idea here is to think through and imagine and allow yourself that imagination as to what that future looks like. And that builds your roadmap as to what are the steps that you need to take today to get to that point in 2025, 2030, 2035. The other one that I included in here is oops, I just opened up Excel, sorry, it's not what I wanted. is the opportunity to donate your time. So donating your time, going into either your local state or county, there are needs here that will require your expertise. And I know there are many of you with various different backgrounds, whether it's psychology, whether it's teaching, whether it's research, health policy. All of this is going to be, all of your expertise is going to be required to think through how do we bring back the country back to where it won't go back to where it is until there's a vaccine, but ultimately how do we start to open up the country again, and how do you go about donating or partnering with institutions that will really leverage your expertise to think through some of these pieces to allow us to get to some sense of normalcy. So this site was just an example, if you're interested in technology, where they've created a technology SWAT team. So if you're interested in technology, learning technology, if you're in the learning development area, perhaps there's an opportunity there. But there are a lot of opportunities out there to really help not only the different states and different counties, but also small businesses. So that's the other area that I think that will be able to help, again, as far as it relates to not only contributing, but also helping other businesses grow and develop with the skill set that you're able to have. Focusing on consultancy. So depending on where you are in your job search, there are going to be companies that, let's just say you are one of two in the job search. If you happen to be in that scenario, and obviously these are different scenarios that I'm explaining, but if they happen to be in that scenario, there's nothing wrong with perhaps thinking of coming on as a consultant. The challenge that currently exists with many organizations, especially large ones, is that they're going to most likely cut more roles. And so if you are considering, or you are being considered for a role right now, the chances of them cutting that role may be a lot higher than before. And instead of actually waiting for that to happen, being able to offer that up to that hiring manager saying, you know, I'm willing to come in as a consultant, is another option to come on board. I know that there's a question of health insurance and all these other nuances associated with coming on as a consultant, but I'm just suggesting that if you happen to be in that scenario, you want to have a higher chance that they bring you on board that to provide some sort of cash flow and do something that you like to do. So that's an option to consider. The other option to consider if you are thinking of being your own consultancy is considering becoming an LLC or doing an S Corp. I know that requires also additional investments. I will also say that if you go into the Small Business Administration of each of your states, there are either waivers or fast tracking to help small businesses or individuals who are unemployed to be able to launch their businesses themselves. And in fact, there are many instances in some programs that exist by state where they, if you are getting unemployment, that they will continue to pay the unemployment whilst you're building your business. So that will not affect the fact that you're launching your business. So there are certain resources out there that help support opening up your business and also being a consultant. The other areas that I would also suggest is three other links that I'm including. One is called Upworks, one is Angel.co, and one is called Gig Now. Upworks, and let me just go into that right now, is an organization that is basically freelancing, and I don't believe you need to be an LLC to sign on, but there are a whole host of opportunities here to be able to do work remotely so that you don't have to be in a physical location. Again, depending on where you're joining me, if your state happens to be open and you don't want to be in a physical location, this may be an alternative to allow you to do remote working. And whether or not you are staying at home, this allows you to look at other categories that will allow you to really, again, contribute and also start making some cash flow and cash revenue. The other one is Angel.co. Angel.co is focusing on startups. Now, if you're not familiar with startups, I'm going to give you a quick overview as to what the startup world looks like. Many of us may have had or still do have a misconception that startups mean two people. But that's not the case. Startups have different tiers. You have Series A, B, C, D, and actually there's F and so forth. But Series A is that traditional one or two entrepreneurs that are looking to launch something. But then you have Series B and Series C. Series C, Series B has around like 50 to 100 employees. Series C has usually like 500 to 1,000 employees. But where I'm going with this is that at the Series C level, there is a seed money of about $85 million. So these are not small or small numbers that we're talking about. These are startups that either that are pre-IPO, they're not completely public, and they're always looking for resources to basically work with them to launch their business. And there's some pretty neat stuff that you'll see once you look in here as to opportunities to work with companies that also allow for remote working, because many startups had to be remote and start off with a virtual team. So I would recommend to start looking here as well as a way of being able to either not only network, but also see what opportunities exist for yourself. The last one that I would share, and this is not just unique to Ernst & Young. So Ernst & Young and PwC have what is, they call it different names, but Ernst & Young created something called Gig Now. Gig Now, and I apologize, I don't remember the name for the PwC one, but Gig Now, what it is the overflow of work that they are not able to fulfill with their current consultants. And what happens is you sign up, you get reviewed, your CV gets reviewed, and then basically you're applying. So it's similar to applying for a role, but this is actually applying for a particular gig that they have available that you could basically work. And these opportunities can range from 6 weeks, 12 weeks. I think things have changed on being on site, so I think some of these opportunities are going to be remote. But this is an established site and capability that Ernst & Young has offered. Again, if you Google PwC and Overflow, I forgot the exact name, and maybe I'll send a link to everyone here. But there's these opportunities here that you can be able to basically apply for roles that are giving you opportunities to work under these name brands. Moving along, we're going to go into building up your credentials. So I kind of covered a few areas, but in this section, it's really around how to keep your skill sets up to date or learn new skill sets that you've always wanted to learn for free, by the way. So we have the Project Management Institute. Currently is an institute that is the governing body that issues project management professionals, or PMPs, which is what I am. And they provide basics to project management. You may have heard the word Agile. They also are providing free courses on learning Agile basics. They actually even have games for children as well, if you happen to be parents. And so I'll cover what that looks like as well. And then you have Learn at Forbes, you have Harvard X. There are a lot of resources out there that are helping you either get certifications or learning other skill sets. And again, it's for free, where traditionally it would be at cost. So again, thinking through what else could you do to be able to have a level of marketability in the area that you're focusing on. And then you have universities and private companies that are also providing free courses. Google, for the last year or so, has created Grow with Google. It's originally designed for entrepreneurs, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be an entrepreneur to take any of their classes. They offer free classes as to how to update your resume, how to use Google Search or Google Jobs. Amazon Web Services also has a lot of free tutorials and even courses on machine learning, artificial intelligence. Having taken them myself, I will state that it is designed and geared towards developers and technologists, but I don't want you to feel that you won't benefit from it, because there is the section of where they teach you the concepts, and then there's a section where the developers actually do coding. And that in that instance, I would suggest go get a cup of coffee. But I would think that there is a lot of information in there that you're able to fully understand. What does blockchain mean? That are the things that you would learn from attending Amazon Web Services. And then you also have Bloomberg Live. That is also another resource that provides you these capabilities of learning new things. So let me go over here to show you Project Management Institute. I had it open. So the link that I've included, these resources are all free. They have symposiums, they provide business continuity classes online. Like I said, project management for beginners, agile, they have podcasts. The tower game is something that, again, is something meant and designed for children. In fact, if you're an educator, by the way, the Project Management Institute actually has a foundation that is called the Project Management Institute Educational Foundation. And there are free resources there, like 30 different products that you can download that you could start thinking about how to implement with your students, if you're a teacher, or learning new capabilities if you're looking for a new role. Again, I'm not going to go through all of these, but there's a huge list of opportunities here. And then when it comes to Forbes Online, the same thing here. They have certifications, they have subscriptions. Not everything here is free. There is a free trial for 14 days. You can quickly look through what makes more sense for you. If you can do a certification in 14 days, then you've been certified. But again, there are a lot of opportunities. Harvard also does the same thing. It's called Harvard X. Different courses as to case studies. And so it's a wide range of topics. In case you love the arts or you're looking into literature, you can be able to access many of these for free. There's an introduction to artificial intelligence. So I know I've covered a lot in a very short time frame. Just making sure I covered everything. I did. And just to kind of recap what I have here. Oops, sorry. My mouse is a little too happy. I am summarizing the areas that we covered. One is Groundhog's Day, which is something that I hope we never experience in the future. And one of the ways to continue to, and I'll put my face here so you can look at me. One of the ways that you can continue to break up that monotony is to start looking at the strategy that you're using for your job search. I highly recommend that you do build a strategy and not just do it. A lot of it allows you to think ahead, what you need, what platforms you want to use. And the reason why I recommend that is because you build a methodology that will allow you to have something sustainable. For some of you, your next role is not going to be your last role. You're going to have another few more jumps. For others, it may be towards the end of the jumps that you can make for roles. Doesn't really matter. Point is, you're building relationships. How do you keep track of them? And these are relationships that I would say need to be nurtured. They have to be quality relationships. I can tell you many times I've had people reach out to me and just ask for a job. I don't think that's the brightest move. How would you feel it if I don't know you and I just say, can you give me a job? You're not going to like it. So think more strategically and think ahead as to what works for you from an authentic standpoint, as to building that relationship for someone that you don't know or someone that you have met and you've lost touch. How do you reconnect with them? There are lots of people that are looking for reconnections. So leverage this time to be able to do that. I definitely have suggested to many of my clients to strike while the iron is hot, to go out there and connect with as many people as possible. You have Nutshell as one tool to consider. By the way, you can use Salesforce, and there's a whole bunch of other CRMs that are out there. I know they're designed for sales, but I like the capabilities of tracking conversations. I tend to be very structured, as you probably can tell, and this allows me to be able to scale up volume. The ClickUp and Clockfi allows me to now convert and operationalize my strategy as to how much time am I spending, what am I spending it on, is this really working? And then with Toastmasters, I think it allows you to have a platform to practice speaking. I think that is important, that when you are connecting with someone, if you come across as hi, I'm Bernardo, and it's doing you a disservice because now you're coming across as insecure and when I know you're very confident in the materials and your experience, that confidence is very important to be able to have when you are meeting people for the first time. And so Toastmasters will help you through that process. And then again, as I mentioned before, being mentally prepared for a longer job search. I'm not saying that it will take you forever to find a job. I'm just saying that you also have to be realistic of the environment. And so how do you remain competitive? What can you do now to be able to prepare yourself to find something? One of the strategies that I mentioned before is to focus on and find ways to donate your time or partner. And I'm not talking about partnering with a nonprofit. I'm talking about partnering with business people, partnering with institutions that could leverage your skill set. And when the time comes, if they're able to bring you on board as either a contractor or as a permanent employee, they will keep you in mind versus someone who they've never met before. Think about your long-term strategy. Where do you want to be when you're in next 5, 10, 15 years? What are you doing with your career, with your life, and so forth? So there's a template there. And again, I'm more than happy to help you through that. And then the last two areas, as I mentioned before, the consultancy, thinking about there are a lot of resources out there where you're able to either be a freelancer or work under the umbrella of like an Ernst & Young to be able to provide, again, consultancy services or working with startups as well. And then lastly, making sure that you, and this is of course of if this is of interest, if you want to be learning, if you want to learn new skill sets, there are a whole host of institutes out there. I'm sure SHRM has free resources or whatever is it that you're focusing on from a career standpoint. There will be having, or they most likely are sharing free resources to help out people learn new skill sets. I've listed several companies are out there helping others to learn new skill sets as well. So that's kind of everything that I wanted to share. I'm sure I'll have lots of questions along the way, and I really hope you found this helpful. Other than just me just giving you some tips, I'm giving you tools that I think you will be able to find useful. As you use them, I would love your feedback. Always feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to see what you think of the tools that I'm recommending. As I mentioned before, I also do have a podcast and a YouTube channel that focuses on career development. Feel free to check that out. I talk about a wide range of topics. Typically, it's under 15 minutes because I like to give micro bursts of knowledge and I don't really have the time to sit for 2 hours and just hear myself talk. So that's pretty much it, Alyssa. I don't know if there are any questions, but I'm happy to answer anything that anyone has asked along the way. And hopefully I didn't go too fast, and I'm happy to go back to anything else that I may have covered in the last 35, 45 minutes.
Thank you so much, Bernardo. Just the wealth of resources that you provided and all those tips and advice was extremely helpful, especially in light of everything that's going on. And just to echo what you said, networking right now is such an important thing to do, and everyone is so willing to give back and provide feedback and do informational interviews. One of a great resource if you are a TC graduate is TC Connect, which is our alumni networking directory. So you can find other TC alumni who are also in the same field or industry or even in the same region. If you currently have any questions for Bernardo, please feel free to send them into the questions pane. Bernardo, one of the first questions that we got is, how do you think COVID will change the job process moving forward once we get to a new normal, whenever we get to that point?
So I think COVID-19 is going to change a lot of things. As you probably have experienced, companies, airlines have been trying to cram in everyone like sardines. So having now more of a what do you call it, a trading desk style function is going to be detrimental for people wanting to come back in because you can't cram in everyone in. So the first, I think, is going to change the landscape as to how do we interact with each other. I do believe maybe handshakes will go away. I also do think that there's going to be anxiety that people are going to have coming back to work. It's not just only being in the office or being in one location, it's the traveling to and from. Depending on where you live, you may have to use mass transit. that is going to cause some anxiousness. And so when I think about the evolution of the job market, I do see there being a slow transition in going to back to being in a physical location. I do envision the fact that most of the roles and most companies who probably were naysayers that you can't work from home are going to now have to work with employees who want to be home, who don't want to put themselves at risk, and coming up with different policies as to how do you manage that. In addition to that, it's coming up with different schedules comes into the office or group social distancing. As it relates to the job search, we've already seen a lot of recruiters interviewing through Zoom or through video chat. I see that increasing even more. The one thing that I would recommend that you keep in mind is that there are also companies out there like HireVue and Aspiring Minds, which are using artificial intelligence to analyze your video as you're being interviewed. Aspiring Minds actually uses FACS, which is facial action coding system, which was designed by Dr. Paul Ekman. And he basically discovered the 7 universal signs of microexpressions. There's been TV shows that have been done around this, and this is getting more into understanding body language and body behavior. But the reason why I raised that is because this particular company has married NLP, facts, a whole bunch of other sciences, and starting to use artificial intelligence to be able to screen individuals as they interview. And it's not real time. It's they'll ask you to submit a video interview or answer some questions, and they'll pass that through their software. I think at some point they'll be able to do it live as they're streaming. Again, that's a little bit farther in the future. So I just share that because it's going to be equally important as to how you come across, what energy do you give to someone when you're speaking to them, what does your background look like, what does your lighting look like. I know it sounds like a lot, and also getting comfortable looking at the actual lens because it looks like I'm looking at you. And so that's not something that most people are comfortable with, but I do see that as part of the job search, that will happen more often where you're not actually going to be flown in, or you're not going to be having to travel somewhere locally until probably towards the end when you're one of the final 2 people where they want to physically see you. But I think that's going to happen more often than not. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you so much, Bernardo. And I think it's very important to know, in light of everything, what virtual interviewings will look like, and having those video interviews, making sure that you're actually looking directly at the camera, and knowing now that companies are utilizing software to analyze facial features is really important. It's something that a lot of people aren't thinking about. So thank you so much for mentioning that. So earlier we were talking about networking and the importance of like the do's and don'ts, which you so gratefully have added into your handouts, which is located in the handouts pane. And we will be sending that out in a post follow-up email. But you and I have both seen many people who will reach out to us and be like, hey, we both went to TC, can I get a job? And that's just not how you do that. So how do we utilize networking and building those connections to get to a point where we can hopefully end up with a job, or at least opportunities of a job?
So I like to start off with the fact that when we put the title networking, people become afraid. We already do it now. We build relationships with, whether you're in a classroom or with a coworker that you've never met, you start to build relationships, and it usually takes time to build those relationships. And a part of that is built off of trust. And so if you kind of change your mind frame and not approach networking as a task or a checklist, and view it as I'm trying to build or make new friends. And I'm not saying that everyone's going to be your friend, but if you approach it from that perspective, it softens a bit more the approach as to what exactly and how do you go about building that relationship with that person. It's important to understand the WIFM, what's in it for me, not meaning for me, but for the other person. So if you have something to offer, then offer it. If I will tell you, when I meet someone for the first time and it's maybe just an informational, I'm always saying, what can I do to help you? First of all, they get, I do genuinely mean that, by the way, but people sometimes get taken aback because they're not used to having someone offer something back to them. Instead, it's always usually take, 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 take. So I recommend that you think about how would you like to be treated if someone comes to you who doesn't know you from a hole in the wall and they are approaching you the way you're approaching someone else, how would you react? And if you don't know how you're approaching someone, then ask the person that you're meeting with the first time, like, how is my approach? Or videotape yourself. Videotape yourself, see your facial expressions. Sometimes we don't smile, and when we're being serious or thinking, our faces probably make some. I know there's these different sayings about resting face, but it doesn't always look congruent to your energy. And so I think the first step is to do your homework on the person you're talking to. Google them, do LinkedIn, try to find information, try to find something that's authentic to you to make a connection, whether it's sports, whether it's arts, whatever it is. And the connection should not be, it should not be based off of work. It should be based off of something that you personally enjoy, because then it evokes an authentic conversation around a topic that you and that other person may like. Obviously, you're not going to start off by saying, "Hey, I was doing some internet searches on you and I found out this, 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 and this." I would never recommend saying that. But as a part of that conversation and that initial conversation, like, "Hi, nice to meet you. How's it going? Well, isn't it crazy what we're living through right now? Yeah, so how are you handling it?" Let them speak. The more they speak, the better off you are. The more you speak, the worse off you are, because they're going to doze off. Your approach really should be let them speak, hear for things that you can introduce a way of building rapport, because rapport is your goal in your first interaction with the person that you're meeting for the first time. And then that rapport, you leave it at that. You don't have an ask other than, is there anything that you can help them out? And I know that it may be very frustrating because you want a job now, but I think it's important to be also looking at it from a long-term perspective. It's going to turn people off. I know it's turned me off. So I do think that you want to think about those strategies as to how to build that relationship. And if you're not good with building relationships, take some classes, look at look online, or think about the one of the people that you've worked with or you've known that you admire as to how personable they are. Understand what those attributes are and think about how do you practice that. And by the way, you don't have to be an extrovert. There are a lot of successful introverts that equally do well. So I don't want to hear that it's extrovert, introvert. No, it's about your style, your personality. What exactly is it that will draw you to that connection? So that would be my guidance, and hopefully you found that helpful.
Thank you so much, Bernardo. So, one of the resources that you provided was the life plan template. In light of everything that's going on with COVID-19, I mean, the life plan template kind of talks about 5 to 10 to 20 years out. But in light of everything that's going on, we're kind of seeing the shift with industries and things like that. And it's all kind of changing and it's unpredictable. How do we kind of envision that in our life plan, knowing that things are right now kind of uncertain?
So I think it really depends as to what your focus is as a career. I will start off by saying, regardless of where it is, technology is always going to be interjected at some point in the evolution and maturity level of your discipline. And so I think it's important to understand what are the trends in your particular industry and make invest your time and energy in learning those newer techniques, the newer technologies. Like right now, I just shared with you the fact that there's technology behind interviewing that analyzes facial expressions. This is stuff, if you're in HR or you're in focusing on consultancy or working with it, these are things that you should be getting up to speed with, understanding what does blockchain mean. And I'm not just trying to gear you towards just technologies. I think that it's also thinking through the landscape of where jobs exist. And there are a lot of companies, a lot of major companies that are leaving metropolitan areas to go to different parts of the country. That's a question you have to ask yourself. Are you mobile? If you're mobile, then there's a lot of opportunities in different companies that could probably leverage your background. So when you're planning ahead, clearly you can't predict all the pieces, but you want to think through, where is your industry going? Is it going to be more insular where you're not talking to people and you're going to be remote? Does it require more certifications? Does it require other sort of research that you need to do that you've not done before? And it's also thinking about what will give you a competitive advantage, right? What could you blend in there that no one else is doing that you like, that will give you a leg up when you are looking ahead as far as your career is concerned. The other thing also to think about is getting to the top ceiling. Many of us look at careers as a trajectory just going up. But there are a lot of people that are comfortable just saying, you know what, I'm just going to stay here. I don't want to get up here. That's a decision that you'll have to make. And there does come a point that even if as hard as you get to try to get up there, you never get up there. And it's a very hard pill to swallow. But it's something that you have to think through. Where do your skill sets? Where are your opportunities? How do you make some of those opportunities? And planning ahead allows you to start thinking about where you want to go. By the way, that template is not meant to be a one and done exercise. You want to refresh it every 6 to 12 months or every year, but you also want to be able to be kind of maneuver or shift certain things depending on how you see things in the future. Hopefully that, again, helps out the person that's asked that question.
No, that was great. Thank you so much. Um, so we can take a few more questions. So if you have any questions, burning questions for Bernardo, go ahead and please add them into the questions pane. Um, Bernardo, one of the things that someone had asked was about networking, and I know we've touched a little bit about this earlier, but is it more of a new normal, especially in light of everything, after you kind of start building that rapport, asking them like, hey, do you mind having a video chat, or do you think that's too much of a big ask right now?
I don't think it's a big ask. What I can tell you is that when the whole lockdown or stay at home process took place, a lot of people were excited that they didn't have to commute. And the video chat was something that many people wound up embracing. I think there's Zoom or video fatigue that's actually taking place where people just want to be able to talk on the phone. They don't want to get dressed up. They just want to be in their PJs. So I think that if you're going to reach out, make that offer. Say, would you be open to doing a video chat or video or phone chat? Give them that option. Ideally, you'd want them to see you, but at the end of the day, it's building rapport and it's what comes out of your mouth that's more important. So I do think that if you do reach out to someone, give them the option of phone or video. But again, I think that's a matter of preference for the other person, and it gives them an option to say, okay, I'd rather do video or do audio. But don't be surprised that if you just go in with the video option, that they may come back and say, can I just take a call?
Thank you so much. And I think that's really important to note. I'm sure a lot of us who are currently working from home are getting bombarded um, with meetings via Zoom or RingCentral or WebEx, and it's just a lot of screen time. So we should definitely be mindful when we are reaching out to our networks to set up informational interviews or just having that networking call, that some people just might want to take a step back with the screens. So Bernardo, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to share your expertise with the TC community. Teachers College will be planning more digital events in the near future, so please stay tuned to emails from TC Alumni Relations and our social media channels. You will be receiving a link to this video presentation in a follow-up email, as well as the handout that Bernardo has generously provided. This video will also be available on our website, which is www.tc.edu/alumni/career webinars. We hope you can join us for our next webinar called On Great Terms, Best Practices for Job Negotiations with Daniel Ames on Tuesday, May 12th at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you all so much for joining us today, and we hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you.